What kind of son could force his own mother to do something so shameful with a dog? Why do some human beings become so cruel as to destroy the very woman who gave them life? Tonight, I'm going to tell you a shocking story. A story of a mother, a son, love, betrayal, wealth, and a curse. Stay until the end, because this story will leave you speechless, and above all, you will learn a lesson that no one will ever forget. The night was dark. The rain poured heavily on the roof of a small mud-brick hut. Inside, a young woman screamed in pain. Moments later, the cry of a baby echoed. But at the same time, another sound shattered the silence outside. Cries, lamentations. The death of her husband, the father of the child, was announced. That night, joy and sorrow collided. The woman clutched her baby to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "He's all I have left now," she whispered. But her tears hadn't even dried when her husband's family swooped in like vultures. They shouted, accused her, pointed fingers, and without mercy, without giving her time to recover from childbirth, they drove her out of the family home. Under the pouring rain, the young widow left, her baby strapped to her back, her clothes soaked, her heart filled with pain. Where would she go? How would she raise this child alone? Yet, in the midst of her suffering, she made a silent promise. "I will suffer. I will struggle. But my son will lack for nothing, even if it costs me my life." What she didn't know was that the very son for whom she swore to sacrifice everything would one day break her heart in the worst way possible. The years passed like seasons that turn without stopping. The little boy grew tall, strong, handsome, and well-built. Meanwhile, his mother aged, her back bent, marked by years of suffering and heavy burdens carried on her head. Every morning before the sun even rose, she tied her cloth, placed large baskets of vegetables on her head, and whispered, "All this is for my son. One day, he will be a great man, and on that day, I can finally rest." At the market, the villagers often mocked her. Some laughed at her worn-out clothes, others sneered at the small coins she counted carefully. But she never responded. She lowered her eyes, smiled faintly, and fixed her gaze on her son with hope in her tired eyes. For her, he was everything. Her pride, her joy, her reason for living. One evening, as the fire crackled in their small hut and smoke filled the room, the young man spoke. "Mama, I want to go to Bamako. My friend is there. Maybe he can help me find a better life." The widow's heart tightened. Her hands trembled. The city was far, full of dangers. But how could she stop him from chasing his dream? She clasped her son's hands, tears in her eyes, and said softly, "My son, promise me one thing. Never forget your mother. Never forget the one who suffered for you, who went hungry so you could eat." The boy nodded quickly, impatient, his eyes shining with the thrill of adventure. A few days later, with only a small bag and his mother's blessing, he took the dusty road. The widow stood in front of her hut, her gaze following her son as he walked away, her heart torn between hope and fear. What she didn't know was that with every step he took toward the city, he was also walking toward a dark fate. The city welcomed him with its noise, fast cars, tall buildings, and hurried people who cared for no one. The young man looked at everything with wonder, but also with a growing hunger inside him. He searched for work for days, but everywhere he went, he was turned away. No one cared about this poor young stranger until the day he ran into an old childhood friend. With a wide smile, the friend said, "My brother, don't waste your time suffering. Here, there are faster ways to get rich." Those words entered his ears like honey, but deep down, his heart already trembled. His friend led him through narrow, dark alleys to an isolated house. The air was heavy. The walls were covered with strange symbols. Inside, an old man awaited them, his skin pale, his eyes red like fire, his body covered in white cloth. This was Baba, a man many feared but whom many sought when the thirst for money consumed them. Baba's voice echoed in the dark room, deep and chilling. "Young man, I can give you wealth beyond your dreams. Cars, houses, servants, everything will be at your feet. but nothing is free. The price is your mother. Give her to me, and the world will bow before you." The boy's heart nearly stopped. His hands shook. His breath grew heavy. "No, never," he cried. "I can't do that. My mother is all I have. She's the only reason for my life." Baba let out a cold laugh, so dark it seemed to make the ground tremble. "Then go back to your misery, back to your poverty. Without sacrifice, there is no wealth." The young man stood frozen, torn between love for his mother and the allure of riches. But Baba wasn't done. He leaned forward, his red eyes burning like embers. "If you refuse to kill her, there is another way." The boy swallowed hard. "What is it?" he asked in a weak voice. A twisted smile appeared on Baba's lips. "You must buy a large dog. This dog will be the guardian of your wealth. It will multiply your money. But there is a condition. Every week, your mother must perform a shameful act with this dog. That is your pact with the spirits." The boy's heart froze, his hands trembled, his breath grew heavy. "No, Baba, that's wrong. How could I impose such shame on my mother? She who fed me, who carried me on her back in the rain." His voice broke. But Baba stared at him, his eyes glowing in the darkness. The boy fled, his heart pounding like a drum. In his head, he repeated, "I'll never go back. I'd rather die poor than betray my mother." But as he walked through the streets of Bamako, he saw men in elegant suits, women adorned in gold, shiny cars passing by, and with each sight, a voice echoed in his mind. Without sacrifice, there is no wealth. Hunger mocked him. Poverty followed him like a shadow, and slowly, his heart began to weaken. One evening, unable to resist any longer, he returned to Baba's house. This time, his eyes were no longer filled with refusal but with despair. Baba was waiting, as if he knew he would return. Trembling, the young man gave in. He agreed to buy the dog, and that day, his soul entered a darkness from which he would never escape. One evening, as the old widow swept the small courtyard of her mud-brick hut, her old phone rang. It was her son. His voice was joyful, vibrant, full of promise. "Mama, come to Bamako. Your son is now a great man. I have a house like a palace. I'll take care of you. Your suffering is over." His words pierced her heart like a ray of light. She dropped the broom, pressed the phone to her chest, and fell to her knees. "Thank you, Lord. At last my tears are turning to joy," she whispered, sobbing. The next morning she packed her small bag, 2 cloths, a headscarf, and above all, the love she carried for her son. The neighbors watched her board the bus, amazed. "So her son has really made it," they said. The widow smiled through her tears. She already dreamed of rest after so many years of pain. Hours later she arrived in Bamako. Her eyes widened at the sight of towering buildings, bright lights, and honking cars. Then she saw it. Her son's house, a true palace with marble floors, golden furniture, and servants bustling about. The old woman covered her mouth. "My son, you've made me proud. You've washed away my shame." But in her admiration, she didn't see the coldness hidden in her son's eyes. Behind his smile, a terrible secret awaited the night. That night, for the first time in her life, she lay on a bed so soft she forgot her pains. Tears in her eyes, she whispered a prayer. "Lord, you've remembered me. My son has taken away my shame." But at midnight, a heavy breath disturbed her sleep. A shadow moved in the room. She opened her eyes and her blood ran cold. At the door stood her son, holding a massive chain. At the end of it was a monstrous dog, its red eyes gleaming in the dark, its teeth bared. The old woman sat up, terrified. "My son, why are you bringing this beast here at this hour?" Her son's smile was no longer one of love. It was cold, terrifying. "Old woman, this is why I brought you here. You're not here to rest. You're here to serve this dog." Her voice trembled as she backed away. "What? Do you realize what you're saying? I'm your mother, the one who fed you, who carried you on her back in the rain." but his gaze remained dark. Do it, or you'll stay locked in here forever. A scream tore through the night, but no one came. The walls of the house were too thick. The door slammed shut heavily. The old widow fell to her knees, her hands shaking. Her son's words echoed. Do it, or you'll stay here forever. The first day, she refused. She screamed, prayed, begged. She reminded her son of all the nights she went hungry so he could eat, all the sacrifices of her youth. But he remained deaf to her pleas. On the second day, her lips cracked from thirst. Her stomach twisted. She cried until she had no tears left. On the third day, her exhausted body gave in. Broken, humiliated, she obeyed her son's order for the first time. She performed the act with the dog, and her soul shattered into 1,000 pieces. After that night, she was no longer the same. Her shame turned to anger. With eyes raised to the sky, her trembling hands lifted, she cast her curse. My son, may your riches turn to ashes. May your nights be filled with torment. You have destroyed your mother. You will never know peace. Moments later, her heart stopped. The old woman's breath ceased forever. The next morning, the son opened the door, expecting to find his mother subdued. Instead, he found her lying on the floor, motionless, her eyes closed forever. Her final words lingered in the room like a hanging sword. You will never know peace. He stood frozen, then let out a nervous laugh, trying to convince himself. They're just words. Nothing will happen to me. He buried his mother in silence, hiding the shame. And life went on. His palace grew, his cars multiplied, his wealth overflowed. But something had changed. At night, sleep abandoned him. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard his mother's voice crying, calling his name. In every mirror he saw her face, her eyes burning with pain. The dog, once the source of his wealth, began to growl incessantly. Its barks echoed as if possessed by the widow's spirit. Days passed, then weeks. The young man grew thin, his clothes hung loosely on him, his laughter vanished. His nights were nightmares. People saw him running through the streets, hair disheveled, shouting, "Mama, forgive me! Don't follow me!" The neighbors whispered, "The rich man has gone mad." One evening, broken, he entered a church. His clothes were torn, his eyes wild. He collapsed before the altar, crying, "Take it all!" He wept until his voice gave out, but forgiveness could not erase the curse. From that day, his wealth vanished like smoke. His friends abandoned him. His name became a cursed legend. Thus ended the story of the son who betrayed the only woman who truly loved him. All that remained of him was a lesson, a warning, the moral of the story. A mother's tears are powerful. A mother's curse destroys an entire life. He who betrays the woman who carried and nurtured him will never know peace. What do you think? Was the mother's curse deserved or too harsh? Share your thoughts in the comments. Spread this story around you. This is a direct and accurate translation of the original text into English, preserving the tone, narrative style, and emotional weight of the story. Let me know if you need further assistance.